Okay, so Rick Ross dropped literally his problem called "Richer Than Ever." He finally dropped it. I know I'm like a week later when he dropped it. However, I think throughout this whole experience with Rick Ross understanding and becoming more famous in the rap game, I do think this project has a lot of transparency that we don't really get from Rose ever. However, I do think there's a lot of I think Rose has gone under the record as one of the most underrated rappers of all time. Apart from his conversation of him thinking him and Jay Z should go into a versus, I think this album right here could literally it might be one of his classic albums that he puts out because it's richer than ever, and it's a he's so transparent and these features are amazing. Just to name a few, we get Wale, we get 21 Savage, we get The Dream, we get a lot of good features that I think balance Rose out a lot more than we've ever got on any other album. But we'll get right into that after a word from our sponsor. All right. So as I already mentioned, this album has a lot of rose, has a few rose features that I think complement this album the way it is. Richer Than I Ever Been by Rose. The track list is a little weird, um, because I did pre-order a previous song that Rose had put out as a single for the album, which was Little Havana. That had Willie Falco on it, and if you don't know, Willie Falco is a dealer that he mentions it, but he says um, is a 90% chance that if you had cocaine in a certain amount of time that you had his. But he did make a lot of contributions to Miami and how popular it is today. Miami, Florida has a lot of different things that were created because of a lot of people and how they use their money. Right? Not necessarily all legal money, but money. So as I said, this song has a lot of different features, but also a lot of different layers to this album. Personally, I do like how this song is. As as I said, there's a song called there's a song with Willie Falco and A Dream, and where Willie Falco just, as I said, he thanks Rose for keeping his name alive and a lot of the stuff that he's done. He doesn't directly say who the person is, but there's some assumptions on some of his lyrics. You're like, who's he talking about, Willie Falco? Um, and I think that is amazing because a lot of rappers, if they don't realize it, they might realize it, but if they don't realize it, there's a lot of people that do different activities that a lot of rappers imitate, and their legacy grows. Um, but he thanks Rose for keeping his name around for decades, which I think is a good way for this song to kind of go because it is, as I'm saying, it is a song where the Dream brings in his stuff, and I think, and I could be wrong, right? But I do think that the Dream got out. But there's a tweet or a comment that I was reading, and he was saying, um, and they were saying somebody just got out, and he was getting out soon. But I already thought the Dream was out, so this occurs that the Dream is out. And he just spits very insightful lyrics. This next song is Politizer. I'm not sure. It has Rick Ross on it, and he talks about a lot of information that's very valid in today's mindset about things. He says a lot of people get rich off the wrong activities, as I'm saying. So if you can, you want to do everything legally, but there's a lot of people that just couldn't do it legally, and they made money off of it because they were good at it. Um, but not all activity that isn't done in the right way is bad, but it is illegal. That's why we have laws. Now laws change per country and state, but relatively the same. And he also mentions, and I think this is another concept. He says a lot of people's pages should be taken out on IG because they're faking it, and I think this is where the notion of people have been putting money up beside their face, where they've shown that they have a lot of money, and he says that it's a lot of people that just are using the same money. They're not spending it. They're not using the same money. We've previously learned this year, but I think previously before this year ends, we've had a lot of people like the Usher Bucks situation where he was using Usher Bucks. He wasn't giving people real money. He was giving Usher Bucks, which that's scandalous by itself. But it's a lot of people that are using fake money, and I never thought about it until you look at it. A lot of people don't flip their money towards the screen because if you see the face, you can tell that it's fake, or you can tell it's the same money. And I think that's what I'm saying. He says a lot of information here that I think that a lot of people do use fake money, and I think that it's weird. And he also says that a lot of rappers you only see flashy when an album is about to drop. So I guess what he's trying to say is that rappers only and artists only show out when their label gives them advances for another album. So it's not really that money. I think that's what he's hinting at, but I'm not entirely sure. This third song has an amazing feature by Benny the Butcher. But, Rose carries his part through here, which I, without a doubt, love. And Rose posted this on his story, I think a week before the album dropped, where he says he wants to pass the crown to Benny the Butcher. So this song called Rapper Real Estate, I understand why he's saying he wants to pass the crown. And he says that there's a lot of situations where people buy a lot of cars and they can't really own it, which I think his whole concept was people think that rappers buy cars. Some do, but a lot do lease these cars that people are so fanatic about. A lot of people do rent these cars, and I think that's something a lot of people don't look at. But Benny Butcher says when he got home, he had a lot of connections. And I think that's true. I think, look at Benny the Butcher. He has made an amazing career in this kind of short run of him being mainstream. Like, he broke mainstream and has had a short run. It could go further. But he says a lot of rappers have 100 cars, and it's odd because it's probably not their money. That's why I think the song before this brings a lot to this table about the light of the rappers that are actually living the life that they are living. The next song is called Marathon, and I don't quite understand, right? Because to me personally, this song is Rose by himself, but I think I personally feel like this is Rose kind of bragging and boasting. And he said in an interview, he said in an event that he was at, and there's a small clip of going around, but he says, he'll tell you first, he has ego, but there's a difference between ego and pride, and I think this is that little mixture on this song right here, where he says, I've been rich, but I'll accept any challenges that want to come to me, right? Because Rose, when he does diss tracks, it's amazing, but I think he says, I already been rich. I'll come at any challengers that want to come at my money or come at me. You can. I'll try. I'm ready for it. He also mentions in the song where he just says he mentions it where he says he's buying homes and realtors congratulate him. But I think it's been noted that Rose has a lot of different houses in a lot of different places, which is amazing. If you can do it, you can do it. But if you can do that way and that's how your mindset works, there's no problem with that. I think that is very good to have. He puts a reference in there to George Floyd, where I think I think this is a double-sided coin where he reflects the George Floyd situation. R.I.P. to George Floyd, no disrespect. But he says where everybody was watching and recording. I think this is Rose's kind of view on it, right? But I'll get into all of this. But I think his view on it is, okay, so we've come to a society where everybody just wants to record and go viral off of clips, and nobody really wants to help anybody out. Like it's rare in this society where people are like, yo, let me help this person out. I don't really want the fame. Let me just help this person out. The kindness out of my heart. And I think that's what he's saying. He's saying a lot of people will record and do anything, but they won't do nothing unless they get views from it. They're not gonna do anything about it, which is a sad way to look at society. But I think he has a point, right? Because there's this saying that happened. There's like if you don't film it or it's not on social media, it didn't happen, and that's a sad way to add to this world that we live in, where everybody's like, if you didn't film it or you didn't post it, it didn't happen. And that's sad, though, because a lot of people are dying because what people post on Instagram or what they post on Twitter or just in general, whatever you want to flash, if you're not, and that's sad because we're losing people to situations that we shouldn't be losing situations to. Juice WRLD. I just think we've got to do better as a society. And I think that's what he's saying. He's saying we used to help people, but now we just sitting there recording to get clicks and go viral on YouTube or Instagram or on Twitter. And that's not how we're supposed to do it. He also mentions that he fired all of his managers because I guess they were, hey, we're with Rose. We're gonna boost off of that, which I had mixed opinions on that. The next song is Warm Words in a Cold World, where so I had a mixed opinion going into this because you see his label mate Wale, right? And you also see Future. Now, Rose and Wale, they don't normally miss. They don't. Not at all. It's rare. They never miss. It's kind of impossible for them to miss. So, Rose drops his iconic. Look, this hook is gonna go crazy if they just let it play. It's drop the hook like I'm magic. Tripping and I'ma drip her and a homegirl out. Right? And it's a crazy but a phenomenal hook from Rose, and it's funny. Right? And Halle just brings more serious to it. He says chicks and then 70. He says send shots and passports, and it's a fun atmosphere between these two. But then we get to these Future lines, and he talks about giving a girl a foreign, I guess, so she can show off, which we get into this whole debate of what's real and what's not, but Future has proved it. And he adds this one line in here where the streets will kill you, which I think in general we've come to understand. If you're a rapper or an artist of majority rappers, country singers, not really having to deal with this. R&B artists not really have to deal with this. But the streets will. It's sad to say, but if you're a rapper, it's a 50-50 chance you get killed in the street, and it's growing. Mind you, we like almost like 93% of the way through 2021. And you getting news of people dying. R.I.P. Young Dolph. We're still getting news like about situations like that, and I think that's crazy that's become a thing. But I also think the mindset of, hey, let's not do this because we're losing more people just because they want to perform art, right? Or do the way they want to do it. We're losing people. Let's not lose any more people, and I think that is a terrible thing that we have come to as a society to accept, right? Because Pac and Biggie got shot, the world went off land. We stopped everything, and now it's coming back to the situation. And the next song is called Wiggles with Dream Doll, and I I want to say this up ahead. I've never heard much of Dream Doll stuff that's an actual song. I've heard a lot of her diss track snippets, but I've never heard a song from her. But Rick Ross is in his bag in this one, in this case. But I think he says that he avoided a case because there's a loophole and he was going to get 30 years, or somebody was going to get 30 years. And 30 years is a lot of time. Like 30 years in jail or in prison. I'm not really sure what he was doing, but 30 years is a long time. But he says he beat the case with a loophole. And that's funny to me, but it's so weird that we have to. It's so weird though. You know, with a lot of money, it doesn't always make you smarter. And that's the concept I'm getting throughout this album, where he's like, hey, money don't necessarily mean anything. He ends it with Wiggle Wiggle as the last verse he says before he passes the Dream Doll. And Dream Doll's lyrics are kind of funny but perfect. And this one line from her kind of sums up how she raps throughout this song. She says, vote against me, that's your fault, right? Which makes sense because she is getting fame. Like, she gets fame and then she doesn't, then she gets fame and then she doesn't. Like, she pops up every couple months and has a lot of people vibing to her music because she has broken like that mainstream undercover, like that line. She's been there. She can get herself right back into popularity and get her back on like famous pages. I think it's the Shade Room that people get their news from. So I think she's saying don't doubt me because she got us on a song with Rose, right? And I think that's huge. Like a song with Rose. Rose is a great marketer, so this is probably gonna go viral in her mindset. Another song is by Blast. I was trying to see how he says it, but I think it's Blast. And it says, we made it out alive. Which, this song, and I think this is where I think Rose was in his bag when he said this, right? Because Blast mentioned stuff about food stamps and passports, and a lot of people don't experience that. And I think that when you need food and you're starving of food, it's so relatable. Like, if you don't, a lot of people are not financially stable to get the situation that they do. That's why that reference hits so hard, the way it says made it out alive, because a lot of people don't make it out of their situations alive when they're going through things like this and poverty. He says people carry cash in brown bags, which I don't know if he did that for the rhyme or he's seen it. I don't know much about this guy. But it's common. Like, there are certain situations where people do carry cash in brown bags, but there's also situations where people carry other things in brown bags. The brown bags thing is like a grocery store thing where they only give you brown bags. They don't give you like the clear bags, bags with holes. So this is dope if you understand the reference. This is an iconic line. But Rose carries this, and he says he remembers not having lights, which, if you have ever experienced that, I don't wish that on anybody, but it happens more often than a lot of people know. Not being able to have light is crazy, but especially during the situation that we're in right now, it's common and it sucks. It truly sucks. But I don't think, and granted, if you've been able to avoid all of these situations, that is fine. I'm so happy for you. But there's a lot of people that haven't. Like, a lot of people that cannot avoid these situations, which is painful because it's tough. You know, you feel like the world's against you. But Rose carries on about talking about people selling drugs, which a lot of people do to get by. Sometimes just people do it because they want to. But he also says this, and I think this is so weirdly put in rap culture, hip hop culture, where there are a lot of people that don't quite understand that when you and somebody else have done a crime, they become your co-defendant. But the line is co-defendants testifying against you. Now they're getting less time, which which is so which is okay. Which granted, you don't want to be a co-defendant in any courtroom, but it's always the first person that goes and makes a deal with the DA or gets the better deal, right? Like that's just how that is. But I also feel that if you're doing a crime with somebody, if you do it, make sure you can do the time. Just do the time, because if it's not necessity, like if you don't need it, for example, um, I've seen this. People going into a grocery store to steal food because they're starving, like they haven't eaten in 3 days, right? Um, if it's not a necessity, I shouldn't say rob at all, but if it's not a necessity that you need, make sure if you do a crime, understand you're gonna do time, right? Like just I'm like, if I get away, you're gonna do time. So let's get that kind of out of there, because I'm like, people are like, well, I'm not gonna do time. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope you don't do time. But if you get caught, let's think about these options. And he said he took the Dr. Dre prescriptions. Like that's, I don't know how to take this. So I'm thinking either he's saying that he took the Dr. Dre route, and I think that could kind of be true, where him and Dr. Dre had similar lines of how they became famous. I think that makes sense to me. The next song is called Imperial High, and Rick Ross by himself, where he just mentions he's a Kings of Kings Fallen. And the thing that he does in him rapping and making money and establishing himself is because he's doing it for the people that he knows that are locked up. Friend or family and friend. The next song, the lead single, is Richer Than I Ever Been. Right? And he just mentioned a lot. He mentions times to get Benzes. He also mentions he's the first. He made 9 figures off of rapping over other people's beats, and this is so iconic to me because if I'm looking at Rose's record, right, Rose always will get a Swiss beat, right. Before Swiss was famous, he went and got a Swiss beat and destroyed that beat. Man, Rose has done it. If you want to listen to his latest beat that's not on this album, Port of Miami 2, Swiss Beats. I think they're having a whole conversation, but he's made 9 figures off of rapping, and that is crazy to me because I did not know Rose's figure. I'm gonna look up his network, right? But that's an icon. Like that's an idol. That's a legend, and that is crazy to me because I did not know, right? Because he has MMG, but rapping alone, I guess without the business MMG, that's how much money he made. And it's crazy to me that he chooses it. He says he's the closest rapper to make Master P money, and Master P made so much money, right? He's been able to diversify his money even more, and I think put his kids straight through college. I think one or two of them made so much money, and that's crazy to me because Master P's still making money. If I'm not wrong. He took his friends to the mall and they all got sneakers. The second to last song on this album is called Hella Smoke, with an amazing feature that I didn't know I needed, but I got a lot of information, and it's Wiz Khalifa. Where Wiz Khalifa where Wiz Khalifa just talks about how much he spends on weed, and he said nobody said it would ever be easy, which is true, because a lot of people were doubting Wiz Khalifa's career after Roll Up. So it makes sense. And Rose just talks about being pulled over by a cop. He mentioned he has one line about married in Paris, which I'm not necessarily sure what that means, and that he's been blowing smoke for hella days. this album right here is an 8.9 out of 10 because it's Rose and the way this album was put together, and these features did not disappoint me, which I think is why I'm rating this so high. But there's also a lot of content to talk about, plus the Willlie Falcon thing. Plus, there's a lot of stuff to learn from this album. So overall, I do like this album a lot. So that's Richer Than I've Ever Been by Rick Ross. If you haven't go listen to it, go listen to it now, because I'm gonna tell you that is great. Or just pick out a few songs you like.